Hi, and welcome back to this Monday edition of Focal Point on AFR Talk. Brian Fisher is my name. The program is Focal Point, the network AFR Talk, the American Family Radio Talk Network. Number to call if you want to join our conversation, 888-589-8840, 888-589-8840. And what we've been talking about so far over the course of this hour, and we don't have to limit to what we've talked about today. It needs to be something that's relevant and current, and probably want to keep the focus on Obamacare and the debate that's going on in the Senate. But we've talked about the fact that I think President Obama has diminished the office of the president. When he goes out there and talks street, when he talks about how the Republicans want to mess with him, it's not even true. But when he kind of talks street like that, I think he diminishes the office of the presidency. And we got Hans von Spakovsky. So look, when the government shuts down, it doesn't shut down. It doesn't shut down. Social Security checks keep going out. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, there is really nothing to fear from a government shutdown. There is nothing to fear from a government shutdown. And don't let your Republican congressman lie to you. Your Republican congressman is going to tell you at some point, I got to vote for this funding bill because I don't want senior citizens to go without their Social Security check. They're not going to go without their Social Security check. That's one of the functions of government that continues to operate in a shutdown. Don't let them lie to you that we don't want to impact the health care of our ailing senior citizens. We don't want to throw Granny out to the curb in a wheelchair because we have allowed the government to shut down. Medicare reimbursements keep chugging right along. I don't want our military to go without their paychecks. They keep getting paid in a shutdown. The government, the military gets paid, veterans benefits get paid, Social Security checks go out, Medicare reimbursements go out. The only thing that stops are the non-essential functions of government. We don't want those anyway. EPA saying, hey, we'll effectively shut down. I say to that, hallelujah. Couldn't happen soon enough. The Department of Education will come to a screeching halt. Hallelujah. Couldn't happen soon enough. Department of Labor gets cut back. Hallelujah. Couldn't happen soon enough. In fact, I'm in favor of a permanent shutdown. I just say we shut the government down for good. We don't ever need another budget. Just shut it down so that only the essential function of the government continue to operate. And I've got just to make the point, here's a piece from the Department of Defense. 888-589-8840, by the way, is the number to call if you want to join the conversation. Here's the Department of Defense. They've issued guidance outlining legal authority for critical military operations to continue is clear, they say. And this is a quote. These are some of the activities that are exempt from a funding lapse. Quote, forward-based combat, combat support, combat service support units. So, quote, operations such as those in Iraq and Afghanistan would continue. Units preparing for deployment would carry on their training and other deployment preparations, and activities needed to support operations and training would continue. In other words, national security is not going to be compromised by a, quote, shutdown, end quote. There's a report issued by Capitol Hill. I think this was put together by, let's see, who did this? The Congressional Research Service, I think. Yeah, supposed to be nonpartisan, Congressional Research Service. But here's what I want to catch. It's 19 pages of dire warnings about what will happen in a government shutdown. And notice this phrase from this article on Fox News. While federal programs and agencies that directly perform national security functions have historically been exempt, the advisory states that closing parts of the federal government indirectly related to the national security apparatus could result in increased risk to the nation. What I want you to observe is they're trying to scare us to death here, but it's completely hypothetical. In other words, the functions they're talking about are only indirectly related to national security. They are not directly related. So they are admitting in this dire warning that anything that's directly related to national security continues to be funded. And they're saying even if these indirectly related functions come to a stop, it might, there is a possibility, it may result in increased risk to the nation. So it's all hypothetical. So they're trying to put all these scare words in there, increase risk to the nation. You look at it carefully, their own words. It is a nothing burger. Let's go to the phones, 888-589-8840. Let's go to Kurt in Grants Pass, Oregon. Kurt, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
Good afternoon, Brian. Thank you for taking my call.
You bet.
Talking about the education system. I started learning about this stuff back in 1982. We need to get rid of the Department of Education, bring it back to the state level. I've heard Phyllis Schlafly talk about it, and I was given a brochure that on October 14th here in Grants Pass, a couple female teachers are coming to speak about Common Core education. I don't know if your listeners have heard about it.
Yeah, and there's an interesting story. Kurt, let me interject here. This is in Maryland. A school board had a meeting with parents to talk about Common Core, and a father was actually arrested and physically escorted out of the room simply for asking questions about the Common Core curriculum. In other words, they did not want to talk about what is in Common Core. So it's bad news. Common Core, it comes from the federal government. It's the federalizing of the entire education curriculum, standards, everything run by the federal government. We want, like Kurt is saying, education as this should ought to be kept at local a level as possible. Anyway, Kurt, finish your thought.
Other thing is, I have several books, one by Sheriff Richard Mack, who was a former sheriff in Utah and Arizona, took on the federal government about the Patriot Act, the Brady Bill being unconstitutional. In his book, Get Rid of All These Agencies. I think it's Joseph Farrar wrote a book, Taking America Back. Get rid of all these bureaucratic things in Washington, D.C., and get it back to the local level. One thing I'm going to have to admit bothers me on AFA, we need conservatives. No, we need people that stand by the Constitution. Then they will be conservatives. Mm-hmm. So I thank you for your program, Brian.
All right, Kurt, you bet. We got problems. I mean, even if you put things down at the local level, you still got problems. We've got this guy in Huntington Beach who has been named the homecoming queen. He's a guy. He's a male in every single solitary cell of his body. He has gender identity disorder. In other words, he has a mental illness. He thinks he's a girl, and they elected him homecoming queen, and the school officials allowed this charade to go on. So that violates everything we know about gender, about sex, about genetics, about biology, about human health. It violates all of that, about what mental health is. It violates every known standard of decency and normality in America. So this guy is now the homecoming queen at Huntington Beach. And CBS accommodating to this, they refer to him with the pronoun she in this article 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. They refer to this guy as a she. Let's go to Marie, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Marie, welcome to Focal Point with Brian Fisher. What's on your mind?
I have two concerns. It's about school.
Yes.
My grandmother was a school teacher in the old school system when things were they weren't so radical. But the thing about the bathrooms, I think if you have a female organ, you should be able to go to and have privacy in a female bathroom, and the same with the male bathroom. And then the school part, this last report, about 47% of children don't make it through high school. That is really pathetic. And I think children need to be able to go to school at their own level, each one. Yeah. They don't need to compete with a system that's so bureaucratic anymore. The other thing is the drug problem in school with kids. We could train little dogs to be drug dogs in school for the price of 1/5 of the salary of one policeman. Yeah. And that would keep drugs or identify drugs in school. This is one of the great concerns of parents. Those are the three things that I just wanted to say.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that. I appreciate that. And that's one of the beauties of homeschooling. I mean, we had our kids in the public school system. My wife was very actively involved as a volunteer, and so we were able, I think, effectively and successfully to navigate our children through around some of the pitfalls in the public education system, and we were happy with the education they got. So I don't want people to think I'm down on public education. But, if you want kind of tailor-made instruction, you cannot do any better than homeschooling because the instruction is designed, it's tailored to each individual student. You can't get any more individual in your instruction and tailored than that. All right, thanks for the call. Let's go to Brian, Fort Smith, Arkansas. Brian, welcome to Focal Point. What's on your mind?
Hey, bud, I just got a quick question for you.
Yes, sir.
I'm a truck driver, and I listen to your show every day, and I agree with 99% of the stuff you say. But maybe I'm mistaken, or maybe you could just clarify for me. But when you say these other agencies that you would just like to do away with and stuff, I mean, our economy, our economy's bad enough, and wouldn't that just throw that many more people out into the non-working force?
Well, yeah, and that's what we're going to hear about endlessly. Is we're going to we're going to have images of these poor federal workers that have been sidelined by this shutdown, and we're going to be made to feel sympathy and compassion and empathy for them and all that. But the reality is, Billy, or rather, Brian, the reality is that when we've had 17 of these shutdowns before, 17 times. Hans von Spakovsky, 17 of these shutdowns have occurred in our recent past since 1977, anywhere from 1 to 21 days. Now, here's the deal. You have less than half of federal workers get laid off anyway, number one. And here's the reality, Billy, that they're not going to tell you. When funding is restored, they get all their back pay.
No, I agree with that. I mean, and I think all this stuff should happen.
So what that means, Billy, I mean, this is, everybody's supposed to feel sorry for these federal workers that don't have jobs. This is a paid vacation for them. They're going to get every dollar of income that they're missing right now.
Yes, sir.
So.
I was talking about shutting the agency down totally, doing away with them.
Yeah. All right, Billy, listen, I appreciate your call. And Billy bringing up that issue. How are they going to fight the shutdown? Well, because they can't fight it on Social Security, Medicare, military. So the poor federal workers, all of whom are getting a paid vacation in a shutdown. Focal Point AFR Talk.